Hi, it's Katrina Kavanagh here, and tempting to continue my Facebook Live, as I like to do every Monday night. Welcome to the Perfectly Imperfect Parenting Facebook Live. We began before, there were some signal issues, so I've let that one go. Hello, Samantha, thanks for coming back. Tonight we're focusing on the issue of what do we do when our children come of age, when they're moving out of that childhood state, moving into adolescence? How do we actually let go? How do we let go? And how do we let go carefully in a way that's supportive to our children, and also really understanding their developmental needs, but also holding them in a structure of safety, which is the ultimate challenge. And for me, I'm talking to you very much in a way of, but as a parent, on my experience so far is I've got Kate age 10 and Phoebe age 12, and she's just moving into those teenage years right now. And so that's been really interesting. And so I'm having to learn how to let go and navigate, what's safe and what's not. And my lens is that I've coming from a background where I've worked with lots of people, where I've heard about just how unkind and how hurtful and how abusive the world can be out there. So my lens is a little bit skew-if. So it means just because I've done the work of working with people who hurt people, and I unfortunately have the knowledge of all the scary things that can happen in things like kids' playgrounds, etc. So because I have a very disordered view, it's meant that I've certainly raised my children and I've held a greater sense of safety for them. Yes, it is very hard, Samantha, very, very hard. And so what I would say is that I wish to acknowledge that my lens is a little bit skew-if. Having worked in the field of people hurting people for a long time, I know what happens in the area of stranger danger, but also family abuse as well. So that's one part of my lens. The other experience I have is, in the face of that, I'm still faced with the challenge of, endeavouring to give my children the best experience as if they had a mother that wasn't privy to that knowledge, right? Which is always the challenge. And then I have the experience as a therapist who's worked with several women now over the years who have needed support around the process of supporting the empty nest, their experience of the empty nest, and children leaving home and supporting their kids to move into that more independent state. And what I've seen with those women, and these are women with children in their mid to late teens, and certainly late teens to early 20s, and some of them have really struggled, and it's a real grief. It is a real loss for them to let go. So I'm going to talk to you tonight from a wide range of perspectives, but essentially coming from my own experience of, what do we do when our kids move out of that primary school age and move into, hello, Tracy Tresler, thank you for finding your way back. What do we do when our kids are moving out of that primary school age and moving into the high school? How do we navigate our experience as parents and carers to support our kids to be able to have, what we're wanting here is we're wanting them to experience life, life as they're meant to be experiencing it as young, like teenagers, and yet we want to keep them safe, right? So we don't want to. We've got to try and get that tricky balance between keeping them safe and looking after them, but also allowing them to experience life, because the times have changed. So the first thing I wanted to say, I've just got a few things to share for this Facebook Live. And the first thing I wanted to say was we must be kind to ourselves as parents. I always like to start there. We can't be kind to others until we're kind to ourselves first. And what that means is, we are going to have a wide range of emotions. We are going to have a wide range of emotions. We're going to feel some days a little bit ready to let go, and give them an opportunity to experience X, Y, and Z. And then as that time comes, we're going to want to pull them in close. They go out into the world and they experience, we stretch the elastic band. We see them struggle a little bit with what that means. We see them learning about what different relationships means, boyfriend, girlfriends, friendships in the schoolyard, we're online, all that stuff, the power of the message. So we're going to have emotions, and our first instinct is going to be to want to pull them in close, get them back under our wing and protect them. And so what I like to say to all of us, and I'm saying this just as much to myself as I say it to my clients and to us here tonight, is that I think the critical thing is that we honour our feelings and say, well, you know what, we're in the art of parenting and mothering, caring, raising children. And it's not an easy task. And there's going to be some days when we manage it well and other days when we don't. Now, those of you who listen to me regularly will hear me say this is not uncommon for me to say that. When it comes to letting go, I think what's really important is to sometimes, particularly as they're moving into those teenage years, to be open and articulate this to our kids, say this to our kids and say, look, I've been raising you for a long time. I'm navigating what this next stage means as far as letting you go. Sometimes I'm going to want to pull you in close, and other times I'm going to want to support you to experience yourself. Can someone, this is real live Facebook Live. Can someone please come and let Magic out, please? And here comes someone. Thank you, darling. Can you let Magic out for me? Oh, she's stretching. Not Phoebe, the cat is stretching. Phoebe's not stretching as she opens the door. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Thank you. So, and so I guess, so to be kind to ourselves as we experience the emotions, and to lean on our adult support system as well, but to be open with our children and say, look, this is a new experience for me, and I'm learning myself what it's like to navigate. And even if you've got older children, every single child that comes through has a different personality, a different temperament, and therefore you have a different type of relationship. So therefore, and the things they're going to want to do and not want to do are different. So, we think we've got it sorted with the first one, but the next one's going to be a different experience again. The number one thing I would talk about is, the number two thing I'll talk about is safety. And I think we're because the battle is, how do we navigate safety? And by safety, I mean physical safety, of course, emotional safety, online safety, which is a whole other podcast on live, and relationship safety, psychological safety. How do we help them navigate that? And what I would talk to you about as far as physical safety is, look, I'm a big believer in you can't be safe enough. And what I would talk about is making sure that if you allow them some time to be unsupervised, going down the street or to a cafe or to a movie or something like that, that you do so with all the usual supports in place. And this is not rocket science, but, there are some great apps out there that, for example, there's one called, I'm not endorsing them, by the way, there's one called Life 360, and that is one of many that can help you track where your children are, and I really like that. And they can also see where you are. So you all get online, everyone's got a, that kind of system I think is really effective. And to rehearse with them, I'm honest with my 13-year-old, Samantha Zane says, and say, this worries me because, and often he comes up with a solution to help me feel more comfortable. God bless him. Oh, I love the sound of him, Samantha. He sounds beautiful. And so I love that, because what you're doing is you're sharing your vulnerability as a parent with your children. You don't have to be, stoic and great and fine. We can share our vulnerability. We can say, hello, Leonie McDonald, my lovely doTERRA naturopath healing friend. So we actually, Leonie McDonald and Tracy Trasler, you have doTERRA in common. I think it's nice to be vulnerable to our children and say, look, I'm learning how to do this as well, and it helps encourage them to have some empathy as well for you, and encourages their empathy for the situation. So, but at the same time, so put your safety structures in place, have those phones, and insist that you can contact them and that they check in with you at regular intervals, all those usual things that, make sense, But then I think the next thing is, realizing that your fears and anxieties are actually yours, and they're not your children. So there's that balance between letting them know what you're working out, but also giving them the message that I have faith in you, in your ability to stay safe and make good choices. Very simple, but something we forget to say. I have faith in you that you can make good choices, that you are smart enough and wise enough to make good choices. And that's either going to be good choices in the form of, the usual, choosing good, safe people to hang around with, and when you're out making safe choices. But sometimes a good choice is actually knowing when you might have made a mistake as a young person, right? You might have made a mistake, you might have not made the best choice, and then you know what to do about that, which is to contact ourselves to come and get them, to text, you get up, set a system in place, because the truth is, as parents and carers, we know, because we've been that age ourselves, that our kids are going to sometimes make those mistakes. They're not going to necessarily make good choices all the time. So we always need to prep them that we need a plan B. What's going to be our plan B? It might be, you might go to have a coffee with friends. Usually a hot, when I'm saying coffee, let's not give them any more energy. Might go and have a hot chocolate. Oh, that's sugar. You know what I mean? Some kind of beverage with friends. So that's good, but you'll have a plan that if you're not happy, if you're feeling unsafe, you just need to text me with a picture of a happy flower or something, and that will be my symbol for ringing you up and saying, oh, there's a family emergency, I need to come and get you straight away. So, it's really important to have those kind of safety plans in place. I want to go back to the idea of reinforcing to your children that you believe in them and you believe that they have the capacity to make good choices. Of course, this conversation begins when they're younger, but I don't care if you've never said this to your child already, it's okay to say it now. When you say to your children, I believe in you, you are teaching them the experience of what it's like to stand on their own 2 feet, to get some things right and some things not so right, and to know that they have the ability to work through those mistakes. So I think that's an amazing gift we can give our children and teenagers, obviously. The other thing I think is we need to encourage them to always stay safe and make good choices. Just a little reminder. Yes, I think it's a really, really important thing to say, and good on you, Tracy Trasler. This is such a good choice, a good way of describing it to our children. The other thing I think is really important is we need to teach our kids to trust their own bodies, because our own bodies communicate feelings all the time. And so, when you get that gut feeling that something's not quite right, or you get that feeling in your throat, the body always communicates, because as I've said to you before, it's a neuroscience thing, and the amygdala senses the threat of possible danger and then signals go to the primitive brain, but then the vagus nerve responds with the yucky feeling in the tummy and the yucky feeling in the chest. So it's a physical thing, right, neurological. And so, I think really explaining that to kids and saying your bodies can sometimes pick up when you're not okay before you can. And that's because, you're busy thinking about what's happening, but, your body can sometimes sense danger before you can. So I think training our kids to be really connected to their bodies and their feeling state, which they would be doing anyway if they're practicing the kindness on purpose way for emotional coaching steps. But this is an extension of that, to be able to use that as almost like a guidance system in a way, because feelings are our friends, right? It's teaching us a good feeling light teaches us to go forward in that direction, but feeling heavy or a bit concerned teaches us to step away. So really teaching them that their bodies are really good at letting them know whether they're safe or not, okay? The other thing that I think is really important is, and something that's not spoken about a lot, and that is teaching our children and teenagers to be able to read a social situation. Okay. Now, I've got a lot of clients that I work with over the years, and even clients I still work with today, who were children in extreme trauma. And what we find is that some of those children, when they grow up, they miss out on reading the social cues, so therefore they're more at risk of those tricky decisions. So, when you think, oh, that child's had a tricky beginning and they're hanging out with those bad people. Let's not get into the word bad is not good, but sometimes some of that is, of course, they're attracted to what they know, which is harm. People in pain are attracted to people in pain. But sometimes even when they're in there, their ability to make good decisions for themselves is compromised because they can't read the subtle social nuances nor the facial expressions on the other people's face to know when to lean in close or step away. So, and I think there's a version of that we need to teach our own kids as well. So not quite at the level of the kids I work with trauma, but certainly at the level of even if they haven't experienced trauma, and also in the fact that we are navigating our world at the moment in very much a online way. So people are missing up on those social cues as part of social skills training, really. So what I would be talking to your kids about is really explicitly saying, things like, another way you can keep yourself safe is by reading reading people's faces and reading their body language, because people can say one thing, but their body language can say another. And so I always encourage the idea with my clients, and I realize I do actually need to have this conversation with my children, the idea of you trust your gut feeling, right, of course. And then the next thing is just if your gut's signaling things aren't okay, one of the next things to check out is, is what the people you're with saying congruent with or the same as what they are showing with their body language and their actions. Okay, so a good example of that is it might be, yeah, we're going to have fun, come with us in the car. Or come down with us and have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee with us. But when you teach your kids really well, they can learn to read body language and facial expressions to know that actually that bit of a smirky smile and that's, a certain look in the eyes and a bit of a turning towards the friend as they are talking to you to invite you in says that they're not standing to you openly. They're not open-armed about it. And they're sort of saying, I'll come and saying, hey, I want to spend time with you. Their loyalty or direction is with their friends and not necessarily with you. So they're all the important cues I think we can teach our kids to start to be able to read social situations. And it's not something, again, that we speak about often. I certainly don't remember being raised with that kind of information. I would just sort of know, and I guess I have an intuitive side, so that helped me a lot in those situations. But I think it's something that we do need to be a bit more explicit in the way we train our children. And I think once you've got them safe with connection, I think, if you need to time limit, I think safety is better than not. So err on the side of caution is my kind of advice. And trust your own judgment because, there are going to be children that with your children, there'll be some that will be more mature than others. One, child at 12 might be very different to another child at 12. So these things need to be taken into consideration. Does anyone here have any questions about that? Just let me know if you've got any questions about, the process of letting go. And I guess the other thing, the final thing I would say is that as you let go, one of the most beautiful things about letting go is watching your children flourish and watching them step out, learn the experience. And this can be positive, beautiful experiences. They can have, it's not always negative. I think that's something we need to remind ourselves. Even though our natural instinct is to protect, we need to remember that the percentage of young people who are actually affected is quite low by any horrendous event. The stats are in our favor. And that what's really important is that we're setting them off to have positive experiences. So we need to remember that as we do so, we're actually, yes, we're protecting, but we're wanting our children to experience what it's like to have a conversation with a friend or a boyfriend or a girlfriend without an adult person being there, because then they experience having to navigate that moment for themselves. So a little bit of that is good, right? And also trust that you've raised your children well, that they will know how to navigate the new experience. You're setting them up to have really good experiences, but when tricky times come, remember what I said before, which is if you've got your plan B, if you've got your safety plan in place, then what that can mean is that you can relax a little bit. You can know that you've done all you can at that point in time for them to experience. Thank you, Samantha Zanes, for them to experience what's next in their life. You're certainly on the right track. The other thing I would add, I was going to finish there, but I just want to add a couple of things. When your kids come back and they talk about their wonderful experiences, I can't encourage you enough to be hungry for more information, to know what kind of conversations are taking place. Of course, to be monitoring on the sidelines their online communication, but to be really curious about what was said, what happened, blah, 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 all those questions. Not did you have a good time and they say good, but, did you feel safe? Hello, Loretta. Did you feel safe? Were there any times I'm sure you had, okay, tell me the times you had a great time, but were there any times when you were doubting it and a little bit feeling a bit icky, a bit heavy? And just to explore that with them. And I think those kind of conversations are really, really important. And then to praise them, of course, for the fact that they kept themselves safe, to remind them that it's okay to reach out if they feel unsafe at any time, and that you will be there 100%. Big kiss to you too, Loretta. That you'll be there 100% for them, whether it's a rain, hail or shine, no matter what their experiences are. I can't obviously emphasize that enough. As parents, when something scary happens, our first instinct is to pull them in close. But what I would ask you to do is to say, okay, this is what's happened. For example, Alan took the girls down for a cycle on the cycleway. We live in Wollongong, so there's beautiful cycleway, Wollongong area. So they're on the cycleway, and Phoebe went ahead, as 12-year-olds do. And she went ahead, and Alan saw her stop and these two people talking to her. And what happened was a lady with a profound disability and her carer came to Phoebe. And the lady with a profound disability was reaching out to her and holding her and touching her and grabbing her arm. And, you know, that was very scary for her at 12. She'd not ever experienced that before. And whilst the carer was there saying, oh, no, she won't hurt you, she won't hurt you. I mean, Phoebe doesn't know that, and certainly we didn't know that. And you know, I'm sure she wouldn't have, but, you know, it was a very confronting, because, you know, Phoebe's never really had anyone touch her without her consent, whatever the situation may be. So, you know, when I heard about that, she was quite afraid, actually. And because she thought she couldn't get away. And so we problem solved that. Now, my first instinct is I'm never going to let you out of my sight again, but I don't think that was a real danger. But for her, she felt unsafe and a bit scared. And so I now have to hear, you know, I've sat with her, well, both Alan and I've talked her through this, and, you know, we've problem solved what would happen next time and what can you do differently and all that kind of thing. And we've validated her feelings and given her some comfort. And I think that's really important to do. And, you know, I would love for next weekend we're out and again and she starts riding ahead and really enjoys her freedom on the cycleway, because that's what riding a bike on the cycleway is all about, and we'll be encouraging for that to happen. So when things happen that are a bit tricky, I think it's important for us to self-soothe, look after our own feelings, lean into, get some support from the adults around us, but then not let that stop us from stopping our children experience all that life has to offer, you know, and that includes learning experiences like that, but it included for a long period of that time the breeze in her hair and enjoying the freedom of being a beautiful girl riding on a cycleway. So I hope that's been a helpful Facebook Live tonight. I'm very, very grateful for the people who've attended. I look forward. I'll be back next Monday night at 8 p.m. I'm pretty sure I don't have anything on my schedule. I'll be back next Monday at 8 p.m. Looking forward to talking to you, and I'll be downloading this. If you're not already a member of my Facebook, not mine, Perfectly Imperfect Parenting Q&A Facebook Live community, then please jump on the website, Kindness on Purpose, go to the parents page and you can sign up there. Otherwise, I will be looking forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget to post some questions here if you've got them for me for our next few Facebook Lives. Take care. Remember, perfectly imperfect parenting, kind to ourselves. There's an ideal and there's a reality, and some days those two things are closer than others. And when they're far apart, we must be kind to ourselves, because we are in the work of raising beautiful children. Thank you for staying with me. I hope you have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.